the greatest mystery of the ancient library is not how its grand halls eventually turned to ash, but how its most invaluable wisdom was quietly pulled from the precipice of ruin during a single fateful night in 48 before the Common Era, deep within the thick quartz-veined stone walls of the royal Bruchion district, far removed from the chaotic orange glow of the burning imperial Roman fleet. Out in the harbour, a silent operation unfolded to safeguard the collective memory of human civilization. It is a story of quiet defiance, where the rhythmic scraping of reed pens and the soft, steady rustle of ancient parchment outlasted the loud ambitions of emperors and kings. Hey friend, let us leave the noise and the restless energy of the modern world behind for just a little while. Take a deep, slow breath, adjust your pillow so your neck feels completely supported, and pull that blanket a little closer to your chin. Feel the warmth surrounding you. Let your shoulders drop down away from your ears, and allow the lingering thoughts of the day to dissolve into the quiet, dark fabric of your room. You are safe here. There is nothing else you need to do tonight, except let your mind drift back into the gentle, protective shadows of the past. We find ourselves stepping softly through the heavy wooden doors of history. Transport your mind to the late autumn of the year 48, before the Common Era, in the magnificent, sprawling coastal city of Alexandria, Egypt. We are standing inside the deepest, most secure sanctuary of the royal Bruchion district, the intellectual core of the ancient world. Not outside, the night air carries the distant, muted murmurs of political shifts, but inside these walls, time seems to slow down to a complete, peaceful standstill. The architecture here is designed for contemplation. Heavy, dense blocks of local limestone and quartz that completely swallow the sounds of the bustling harbour, not creating an oasis of absolute serenity. As you look around this dimly lit chamber, your eyes adjust to the soft golden radiance of a single copper oil lamp sitting on a low, sturdy table made of dark Lebanese cedar. The flame is perfectly still, untroubled by any draught, casting long, gentle shadows that stretch lazily across the smooth, cool stone floor. The air is pleasantly cool, carrying the grounding, earthy aroma of dried papyrus plants, old leather bindings, and the faint sweet scent of natural beeswax. There is a profound sense of purpose in this space, a quiet understanding that within these walls, the thoughts, discoveries, and dreams of countless bride are being held with the utmost care and reverence. Your hands, resting flat against the surface of the wooden table, feel the deep, natural grain of the cedar wood. Spread out before you are several long unrolled sheets of papyrus, each one covered in neat, rhythmic rows of black ink. This particular manuscript contains the foundational observations of early star mappers, individuals who spent their nights looking up at Moph, the very same moon that illuminates the desert sky tonight. The fibers of the papyrus are visible under the warm lamplight, a beautiful, intricate matrix of horizontal and vertical lines woven together from the stalks of the Nile River reeds. Run your fingers lightly over the surface. Feel the subtle ridges, the organic roughness of a material that has preserved human thought for centuries. Every movement made in this room tonight is deliberate, slow, and infused with a calm, meditative rhythm. There is no panic here, only the steady, comforting cadence of preservation. You pick up a small, hollow reed pen, its tip carefully split to hold just enough ink for a few precise characters. As you dip the reed into a small stone inkwell, the faint scent of charred willow wood rises into the air. When the pen touches the edge of a new parchment scroll to note its placement in the archives, it creates a faint, rhythmic whisper, a soft, dry scratching sound that anchors the deep silence of the room. As we sit together in this peaceful sanctuary, watching the amber lamplight paint gentle patterns on the ancient walls. Remember that you are completely safe and free to rest. This exploration of the past is a work of creative historical narrative constructed solely for entertainment, relaxation, and educational purposes. While the core of our journey tonight is firmly rooted in verified archives, cert been textually imagined to provide an immersive auditory experience. A gentle space where your mind can let go of the present and quietly drift away into a deep restorative sleep. The thick, massive blocks of limestone that form the foundation of this inner sanctuary have stood for generations, layered with precision by ancient masons who understood that true wisdom requires a quiet, undisturbed space to endure. These walls are several cubits thick, embedded with dense veins of natural quartz that seem to capture and diffuse the warm ambient light of the oil lamps. Outside, far beyond the heavy bronze-reinforced doors and the long echoing corridors of the royal quarter, the world is experiencing a moment of profound transition. Caesar ships out in the harbour are undergoing a quiet, glowing transformation under the night sky, when, yet within this deep, stone-carved chamber, not a single sound of that distant commotion can penetrate. The roaring of the flames, the shouts of the Roman sailors, and the crashing of the Mediterranean waves dissolved into the heavy silence of the earth. Dissolved into the heavy, protective silence of the earth. It is as if the library itself has pulled a thick, velvet cloak of stillness over its shoulders, creating a timeless sanctuary where you and Mott can sit in absolute peace. Let your mind rest on the sheer weight and stability of these ancient stones. Feel the cool, solid floor beneath your feet, grounding you in this moment of quiet preservation. There is an overwhelming sense of safety here, a realization that some spaces are meant to remain untouched by the passing storms of human ambition. The air inside this deep vault is cool and perfectly still, carrying a delicate, comforting balance of scents. It smells faintly of dry desert sand that has travelled on the wind, mingled with a deeply grounding aroma of ancient ink, old linen, and the rich protective oils of Lebanese cedar and frankincense. Every breath you take in this space feels light, rhythmic, and deeply calming, filling your lungs with the quiet serenity of a night dedicated entirely to the gentle preservation of human thought. Looking closer at the chamber around us, the rows of heavy wooden shelves stretch up toward the high vaulted ceiling. Each shelf is meticulously carved from dark, solid timber, holding hundreds of cylindrical cases made of boiled leather and polished wood. Inside these protective containers rest the collective thoughts, discoveries, and poetic musings of scholars from every corner of the known world. There are texts from Babylon, Persia, Greece, and the ancient kingdoms along the Nile, all resting side by side in perfect harmonious silence. The soft amber glow of the copper oil lamp dances gently across the polished surfaces of the leather cases, creating a beautiful hypnotic play of light and shadow that moves with the slow, predictable rhythm of a fading heartbeat. There is no rush here, no urgency. Every single item in this room has its own designated place, waiting patiently for the gentle touch of a scholar hand. You reach out and touch the edge of a nearby shelf, feeling the cool, smooth texture of the wood that has been polished by the hands of countless archivists over the decades. A thin, microscopic layer of cedar dust sits on the surface, a soft grey veil that speaks of the quiet, undisturbed passage of time. As you brush a tiny speck of Deoete away, the motion is so slow, so silent, that it does to even disturb the flame of the nearby lamp. The absolute stillness of this room acts as a mirror for your own mind, allowing all the clutter, the noise, and the restlessness of your thoughts to slowly settle down, just like the fine dust on these ancient shelves. You are completely insulated from the world outside, wrapped in a cocoon of stone history and deep, unshakable tranquility. Let yourself sink deeper into this peaceful atmosphere, knowing that within these protective walls and the night is unfolding in perfect, serene harmony. In perfect, serene harmony. Sitting here in the heart of the library, staring at the rows of ancient wisdom, begins to wash over your mind. We often think of history as a series of grand, loud events, of battles fought, treaties signed, and empires rising or falling under the heat of the midday sun. But the true architecture of human civilization is built in places just like this, in the absolute stillness of a midnight room, where a lone individual chooses to preserve rather than destroy. There is a beautiful, profound comfort in recognizing that while the physical structures of the world, the stone monuments, the wooden ships, the grand palaces are always subject to the slow erosion of time, the ideas they house are fundamentally eternal. An empire may fade into the dust of the desert, but a single true thought recorded on a fragile piece of papyrus can quietly find its way into your night. Not me. As we continue our gentle work in the dim light of this sanctuary, you might choose to quietly subscribe to Whispers of Centuries, a small effortless act that ensures this portal to the past remains open for you whenever you need to find rest. For now there is no rush. Let your breathing slow down even more. Let it match the deep, slow rhythm of this ancient room. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest, completely unhurried, completely at peace. Your hands move slowly across the cedar table to lift the lid of a heavy chest. The wood is dense, dark, and smooth to the touch, its corners reinforced with bands of oxidized bronze that have turned a beautiful, muted shade of sage green. As you lift the lid, the hinges make no sound, having been carefully oiled with fine olive oil by the library guards earlier in the evening. Inside the chest lie several dozen leather cylinders, each one containing a manuscript of immense philosophical value. You reach in and gently grasp one of these containers. The leather is thick and stiff, cured using ancient methods that have left it with a rich, smoky aroma that instantly grounds your senses. Holding the container in your hands, you feel the substantial weight of it, the quiet gravity of the words resting inside. This particular cylinder holds a treatise on the nature of time and memory, a collection of thoughts written by a scholar who lived generations before Caesar ever set foot in Egypt. With slow, deliberate movements off the end of the leather case, slide the wooden cap off the end of the leather case. The friction of the wood against the leather creates a soft, dry whisper, a comforting rhythmic sound that repeats with every gentle pull. Shh! The sound is small, yet in the absolute silence of the vault, it feels incredibly rich and satisfying. Inside the case, the papyrus scroll is rolled tightly, its edges perfectly clean and unfrayed. You can see the pale cream-coloured linen ribbon that binds the centre of the scroll, tied in a simple, elegant knot. Your fingers work slowly to untie the ribbon, feeling the soft, fibrous texture of the unbleached linen against your skin. There is a deep, meditative pleasure in these tiny, physical interactions. The texture of the leather, the smoothness of the wood, the soft yield of the linen string. Every action is a step further away from the chaos of the modern world, and a step deeper into a space of absolute safety, protection, and rest. You are doing important, beautiful work tonight. A deep, restorative sleep will be waiting for you. The deep stillness of the scriptorium wraps around us like a heavy blanket. In this dedicated space of writing and reflection, every sound is magnified by the surrounding silence into a beautiful rhythmic symphony of peace. At the center of your workspace, lies the primary tool of your craft, a simple reed pen known as the calamus. This pen was harvested from the marshy banks of the Nile River, selected for its strength and flexibility, until its outer skin turned a pale golden sun, until its outus turned a pale golden hue. Your fingers hold the smooth, cylindrical body of the reed, feeling its lightness and the gentle warmth it has absorbed from your hands. Earlier in the evening you used a small sharp bronze blade to cut the tip of the reed at a precise angle, creating a fine split bit that allows the ink to flow smoothly and predictably onto the page. The tiny curls of shaved reed, still remnants of preparation that remind us of the care required. Before any great journey begins, let us dwell on the soothing sound of this pen as it meets the surface of the papyrus. When the tip touches the coarse, woven fibres of the page, it produces a very distinct, soft scratching sound. It is a gentle, dry murmur that repeats with every stroke of the hand. With every line of text you write, this sound fills the quiet room, establishing a steady, hypnotic cadence that naturally slows down your heart rate and clears away the heavy fog of unnecessary thoughts. There is a beautiful predictability to this motion. You move your hand from left to right, creating small uniform symbols that represent the wisdom of the ancient world. As you finish a line, there is a brief peaceful pause as you lift the pen, slide the papyrus slightly to the side, and prepare for the next stroke. This repetitive cycle becomes a form of meditation, a quiet sanctuary where the past and the present meet in perfect harmony. You do not need to worry about the grand scale of the world outside. Your only responsibility in this moment is to focus on the soft whisper of the reed pen and the steady progress of your hand. The ink itself is a marvel of ancient simplicity, created by mixing fine soot from charred willow, branches of kephet water, and a small amount of natural gum arabic to give it body and permanence. It sits quietly in a shallow well carved directly into a heavy block of black basalt stone. The surface of the ink is a perfect dark mirror, reflecting the tiny flickering flame of the distant oil lamp. When you dip the calamus into the well, the tip absorbs the dark fluid with a subtle wet click, a tiny sound that indicates the pen is ready once more. As the dark ink is transferred to the pale papyrus, you can see it glisten briefly under the warm light, a wet, shiny line that slowly dries into a rich, permanent matte black. This process of drying is slow and calm, taking several minutes as the porous fibres of the plant drink in the ink, locking the words into the physical fabric of the world. You watch the transition from wet reflection to dry permanence, finding comfort in the absolute certainty of the process. As you look down at the growing list of titles you have recorded tonight, you realize that each name represents a treasure saved from oblivion. You write down the titles of mathematical proofs that define the shape of the earth, the delicate verses of lyric poetry written by long-forgotten poets, and the detailed records of celestial movements observed from the tops of desert towers. Each letter is formed ver capite at absolute precision, the curves of the characters smooth and steady. The rhythm of the writing mirrors the rhythm of your breathing, deep, slow, and completely effortless. You are a guardian of time, working in the quietest hours of the night to ensure that these valuable thoughts are carried safely into the future. Let the comfort of this routine wash over you. Feel the tension melting away from your hands, your arms, and your shoulders. The world is quiet, the scriptorium is safe, and you are surrounded by the protective embrace of history. Leaving the small writing desk for a brief moment, your footsteps make no sound as you walk across the smooth, cool limestone floor toward the deeper recesses of the inner sanctuary. This section of the library houses the foundational texts of geometry and mathematics, a quiet realm where chaotic worldly matters are reduced to perfect, eternal truths. You find yourself standing before a heavy shelf made of dark seasoned timber. Resting at eye level is a beautiful, rectangular chest crafted entirely from old Lebanese cedar wood. This chest contains the complete works of Euclid, the master of geometry who walked these very halls generations before your time. The wood of the chest has aged into a rich, deep amber colour, its surface polished to a soft sheen by the gentle hands of countless scholars who have come before you. Reach out your hand and place your palms flat against the lid of the chest. Feel the solid, unyielding weight of the timber. The natural grain of the wood rises slightly in subtle ridges beneath your fingertips, telling a quiet mountain slopes. Long ago. As you slowly lift the heavy cedar lid, a soft warm sigh of trapped air escapes from the interior of the chest, filling the immediate rich and grounding aroma. With an incredibly rich and grounding aroma, this is the scent of time itself, preserved within a confined space for decades. The dominant note is the deep, balsamic fragrance of the cedar wood, a natural resinous smell that is both warm and woodsy, combined with the sharp, clean scent of cedar oil that was applied to the interior panels to deter insects and moisture. Mingled with this woodiness is the distinct, comforting perfume of ancient parchment and dry papyrus, a scent that carries hints of dried field grasses and the earthier dust of old archives. Take a deep, slow breath in, letting this rich, fragrant air fill your lungs. It feels deeply comforting, instantly clearing away any lingering tension in your mind. There is a profound sense of peace in knowing that this exact scent has been experienced by the greatest minds of antiquity, a quiet continuity that links your breath with theirs across the vast expanse of time. Looking down into the open chest, you see the scrolls resting neatly side by side in carved wooden cradles, each one wrapped in its own protective sleeve of dark, supple leather. These are the elements of geometry, the timeless proofs that define the very structure of our physical world. Your fingers move gently to select the first scroll, but the leather sleeve feels heavy and slightly cool to the touch. As you slowly slide the papyrus document out of its protective casing, the dry edges of the plant fibers create a soft, sliding murmur against the smooth lining, a tiny rhythmic sound that emphasizes the absolute quiet of the vault. Unrolling just a small section of the scroll under the steady amber light of the oil lamp, your eyes rest upon the beautifully drawn diagrams, perfect circles, precise parallel lines, and elegant triangles, all executed with the steady hand of an ancient scribe using rich black ink. These lines represent an unshakable order, a universe of perfect balance and absolute certainty, where every question has a clear logical resolution. There is a unique comfort in gazing geometric figures in the deep silence of the night outside. Human history may be unpredictable and full of sudden shifts, but inside this scroll, a triangle remains perfectly true, its angles always summing to the exact same eternal constant. The stability of these mathematical laws mirrors the safety of your current surroundings. You are completely insulated from the outer world, resting in a space where logic and peace reign supreme. Feel the deep, soothing weight of this knowledge as you gently roll the papyrus back into its tight cylinder, carefully back into its leather sleeve. The motion is slow, getting slow, deliberate, and completely unhurried. You place the scroll back into its designated cradle inside the cedar chest, allowing the warm, fragrant wood to protect it once more. Your mind feels calm, high. Your body feels completely supported and heavy with relaxation, as the gentle rhythm of this ancient preservation continues to guide you deeper into a state of quiet rest. Let us turn our quiet attention to the physical nature of the papyrus itself. The humble, resilient weight of our shared human history tonight. You gently lift a loose, unwritten sheet of this ancient paper, a protective layer meant to cover the delicate edges of an official scroll, and bring it closer to the steady, amber glow of the copper oil lamp. As the warm light passes through the translucent material, it reveals an incredible, intricate grid-like pattern of human craftsmanship. Every single sheet tells a silent story of the quiet, sun-drenched marshlands along the banks of the Nile, where the tall green sedge plants once swayed gently in the river breeze. Craftsmen spent long unhurried hours harvesting these thick stalks, carefully peeling away the tough, dark outer skin to reach the soft, pristine white inner pith. This pith was then sliced into incredibly thin, delicate ribbons, which were laid out side by side on a smooth wooden block in 2 overlapping layers, and the next layer running vertically, and the next layer unbreakable bond, forming a natural unbreakable bond. Run your thumb very slowly across the surface of the sheet, feeling the subtle rhythmic variations in its texture. You can feel the small, organic ridges where the vertical and horizontal fibers cross over one another, a tactile map of the plant's natural growth, to make this rough surface smooth enough for the reed pen. An archivist used a small polished piece of ivory or a smooth seashell, pressing down with a steady, even rhythm until the fibers became flat and compact. As your fingers trace these smooth paths, you can hear a faint, whispering sound that mimics the rustle of dry autumn leaves moving in a quiet, distant forest. This is the soft, soothing voice of the ancient archive, a texture that has been touched, valued, and protected by generations of thinkers. There is an immense, grounding comfort in realizing that these simple plants, rooted in the mud of the great river, became the silent guardians of humanity's greatest thoughts. When the black ink meets this woven matrix, it does not simply sit on top of the page. It gently bleeds into the very marrow of the plant fibers, becoming one with the material. Woke hand, the papyrus drinks the knowledge, locking it away within impossible to erase. As you hold the page, you can feel its lightness, yet it possesses a quiet, unyielding strength that has defied the decay of centuries. It is completely untroubled by the modern concepts of speed or urgency. It demands patience. It requires a slow, steady hand to unfold, and an equally gentle touch to roll back into security. Let this sense of unhurried permanence wash over your mind. Your thoughts do not need to rush. Your heart can find its own steady, peaceful rhythm, matching the slow, deliberate breath of the ancient world around us. As we watch the gentle light illuminate the intricate web of these ancient fibers, we are reminded of the profound care and dedication that goes into bringing these historical moments back to life for your relaxation. This content was developed with the assistance of advanced AI tools, verified and edited by the editorial team at Whispers of Centuries. All rights reserved. There is no need to hold on to the worries of the modern day. You have done enough. You are completely safe in the warmth of this quiet evening. Until next time, listen closely to the whispers of the past, because you never know what timeless wisdom might quietly find its way into your night. We now teyurner our attention from the intimate workspace of the cedar desk toward the larger, sturdier wooden crates that line the lower perimeter of the inner sanctuary. These containers are carved from thick slabs of mature Mediterranean oak, a wood chosen specifically for its immense strength, density, and ability to withstand the harsh, changing temperatures of the desert nights. Unlike the delicate permanent housing for the individual scrolls, these oak crates are built for safe passage. Not place are built for so titulid, their corners reinforced with thick bands of hand-forged black iron. Each iron rivet has been flattened by a blacksmith hammer, leaving a rough, faceted surface that catches the dim amber light of our oil lamp in small, glinting points. As you move closer to one of these great crates, you can feel the cool air that pools near the stone floor, carrying with it the faint, clean scent of freshly split timber and the lingering warmth of the resin that still sleeps deep within the grain of the wood. Before a scroll can be placed inside the oak container, it must be enveloped in a protective shroud of unbleached, coarse-woven linen cloth. A large roll of this heavy fabric rests on a wooden bench nearby, its texture rough and substantial between your fingers. This linen is entirely natural, retaining the pale, oat-coloured hue of the flax plants from which it was spun. You stretch out a length of the cloth across your lap, feeling the cool, reassuring weight of the heavy threads. Using a pair of heavy bronze shears, you cut a neat square from the roll. The sound of the blades sliding through the tightly woven linen is a crisp, satisfying snap, a clean, rhythmic punctuation in the deep silence of the vault. You take the first prepared papyrus scroll, now resting securely inside its protective leather sleeve, and place it gently at the edge of the linen square. You begin to roll the fabric around the cylinder, the friction of the rough linen against the smooth. Nos. Cured leather creates a soft, sliding hiss, dry whisper that seems to echo the quiet rustle the desert wind outside the thick stone walls. As we pause for a moment in this steady, beautiful rhythm of preservation, you might find comfort in knowing that you can always return to this peaceful sanctuary. Taking a small, gentle moment to support the channel by liking this video or subscribing to Whispers of Centuries helps keep this quiet portal to the past alive for your nights of rest. But for now, there is absolutely nothing else required of you. Simply let your mind lean back into the soft cushions of this ancient room. Allow your breathing to settle into a deep, unhurried rhythm, and let the comforting weight of history soothe your thoughts into a state of total, unshakable relaxation. With the scroll now fully wrapped in its protective linen casing, you lift it with both hands, feeling the balanced, solid weight of the object. You lean down slowly, your knees bending with a calm and steady control, and lower the bundle into the deep interior of the oak crate. As the linen-wrapped cylinder touches the wooden bottom of the chest, it produces a deep, muffled thud, a low, resonant frequency that vibrates softly through the stone floor beneath your feet. This sound is incredibly grounding, a heavy, hollow note that speaks of absolute security and protection. Whether you place a second wrapped scroll immediately next to the first, ensuring they fit snugly together, so that no movement sound occur during their journey. The gentle, rhythmic sound of wood meeting wood, softened by the layers of heavy linen, becomes a steady, hypnotic loop, thud, thud, thud. Each movement is identical to the last, a peaceful chain of actions that clears away the unnecessary clutter of the mind, leaving only the serene, protective atmosphere of the Midnight Archive. Before the remaining scrolls can be safely enveloped in their linen shrouds and placed within the heavy oak crates, a vital and ancient ritual of preservation must be performed. Near the corner of the heavy cedar workspace sits a small, pristine jar carved from translucent white alabaster. This vessel, no larger than the palm of your hand, holds a precious golden elixir used by generations of royal archivists, pure, concentrated cedar oil gathered from the high mountain slopes of the Levant. The alabaster stone is incredibly smooth, possessing a cool, soothing temperature that contrasts beautifully with the ambient warmth of the room. As your fingers curl around the slender neck of the jar, you can feel the faint, silky texture of the stone, a tactile connection to the long line of caretakers who have stood in this exact spot throughout the decades. The stone jar is heavy for its size, grounded firmly to the wooden table, holding its aromatic contents in absolute stillness. Under the flickering glow of the copper lamp, the translucent walls of the alabaster gradients, revealing the rich amber hue of the oil resting quietly inside. With a slow, careful motion of your wrist, you gently twist the small wooden stopper that seals the mouth of the jar. The wood-on-stone movement produces a faint, muffled squeak, a tiny, comforting sound that breaks the silence of the vault in the most gentle way possible. The moment the stopper is removed, the concentrated essence of the cedar forest escapes into the cool stagnant scent of the sanctuary. It is a scent of immense depth and warmth, a rich balsamic aroma that instantly commands the senses and clears away any lingering restlessness in your mind. It smells of ancient timber, dried earth and sun-warmed resin, carrying a clean, sharp undertone that feels deeply purifying. Take a slow, deep breath in, letting this powerful, grounding fragrance wash over your thoughts. Feel how it enters your chest, bringing with it a sense of absolute calm and quietude. In this room, the scent of cedar is the smell of safety, an invisible shield that has kept the dampness of the earth away from these delicate pages. You take a small piece of folded wool cloth, holding it lightly between your thumb and forefinger, having been woven the finest of the desert sheep, having been woven from the finest fleece of the desert sheep. With a steady, unhurried hand, you tilt the alabaster jar just enough to let a single perfect drop of the amber oil fall onto the cloth. The drop hangs for a split second at the lip of the jar, a glistening golden bead reflecting the lamplight, before it is silently absorbed into the soft fibers of the wool. You then lift a prepared scroll, holding it gently by its central wooden rod, and bring the oiled cloth to the exposed edges of the tightly rolled papyrus. Very gently, with a light and rhythmic touch, you dab the cloth produces a soft, sliding murmur, a gentle friction that sounds like a quiet whisper. As the oil touches the dry plant fibers, it creates a dark, rich border, sealing the edges against the microscopic dampness that rises from the coastal air. You turn the scroll slowly in your hand, repeating the motion with an even thud. Dab, turn, dab, turn. The repetition is beautiful in its simplicity, a soothing cycle of protection that frees your mind from any need to think or worry. One by one, the ancient scrolls receive this aromatic blessing. The fragrance in the room deepens, becoming thicker, warmer, and more enveloping with every document you treat. The ancient texts of philosophy, history, and medicine are now enveloped in a fragrant, protective mist, ready to endure whatever trials the outer world may present. There is a profound, quiet satisfaction in this work. You are not just preserving lines of text, you are wrapping the very soul of human thought in a cocoon of safety. As you set the treated scroll down and prepare the next one, you can feel into the tranquil rhythm of heavier, sinking deeper into the tranquil rhythm of the night. The world outside is distant and meaningless. Here, inside the Aric embrace, O stone, the soul, the sauce, the soft cloth and the steady, unbroken flow of ki-pi. Let yourself drift with this scent. Let it carry you into a state of total restful slumber. Moving your hands with the same steady, unhurried rhythm, you turn toward a specific compartment located in the deepest alcove of the inner sanctuary. This shelf is crafted from a particularly ancient, dense wood that has turned almost entirely black with age, housing the treasured treatises of Aristotle. The containers here are distinct, dyed a deep, dark charcoal colour, using natural mineral pigments, and finished with a soft satin wax that repels the ambient moisture of the night. Your fingers brush against the bronze identification tag hanging from the central cord. The metal is cool, smooth, and carries a delicate layer of dark patina that has developed over decades of undisturbed rest. As you lift the heavy container from its designated niche, you can feel the profound weight of human thought resting within your palms. This scroll contains the philosophical inquiries into the nature of reality, logic, and the unseen forces that govern the cosmos, truths that have survived the collapse of city-states and now find their ultimate sanctuary in the absolute quiet of this midnight hour. Slowly, you slide the papyrus document out from its charcoal-coloured sleeve. The motion creates a low, hollow drag, a beautiful, dry whisper that speaks of safety and absolute isolation from the outer world. You lay the scroll flat upon the smooth surface of the cedar table, anchoring its top edge with a small, polished block of green jasper stone to keep it from curling back into its cylindrical shape. The stone is heavy and cold, its deep green veins catching the warm, amber light of the copper lamp in a way that feels incredibly grounding. Your eyes trace the margins of the first text column. The ink used here is exceptionally rich, a dense, permanent black that stands out in sharp relief against the pale, honey-coloured papyrus, spent countless hours ensuring each character was perfectly formed, every stroke uniform, every line balanced. You can see the faint, microscopic variations where the ancient scribe pressed a bit firmer with their reed pen, leaving a tiny, raised bead of dried ink at the conclusion of a philosophical statement. Human touch, a testament to a mind that has long since departed, yet whose silent voice remains perfectly clear under your gentle gaze. Looking down at these rows of steady characters, a profound wave of philosophical serenity washes over the room. Think of Hat-over kept many conquerors, and kings have claimed dominion over these coastal lands since these words were first set down upon the page. Rulers have come and gone, names have been written in the sand, and great armies have marched across the desert paths outside, leaving behind nothing but fleeting shadows. Yet, these quiet lines of black ink have remained peacefully on their wooden shelves, entirely untroubled by the chaotic movements of the world. Pand. They do not seek attention. They do not demand power. Their only purpose is to hold truth safely within their fibres, waiting patiently for the gentle hand of someone who seeks to understand. There is an exquisite, unshakable comfort in this permanence, a reminder that the loudest events of history are often the most temporary, while the quietest acts of preservation are the ones that truly endure across the centuries. Let this stability anchor your own mind tonight. The world around you may experience its own shifting tides, but here, in the protective embrace of this ancient archive, everything is steady, secure, and at peace. You gently roll the papyrus back, in by inch, feeling the supple organic resistance of the plant fibres as they curve sing to a tight cylinder. The dry edges sing a small, soft song, a rhythmic rustle that signals the successful completion of another quiet task. You slide the scroll back into its protective charcoal sleeve, securing the wooden cap with a deliberate twist of your wrist. Every single movement you make is a gentle promise to the future, a quiet assurance that this collective wisdom will outlast the darkness of the night. Your hands feel calm, your shoulders are completely relaxed, and your eyelids are beginning to feel beautifully heavy, weighed down by the soothing, repetitive cadence of the archive. The deep, protective silence of the library folds over you once more, cradling your thoughts and easing your spirit into a deep, unhurried state of total, restful slumber. Deep within the shadows of a neighbouring alcove, your hands find their way to a unique collection of oversized cylinders that sit apart from the standard papyrus archives. These containers are crafted from thick, heavy calfskin leather, aged to a deep mahogany brown and secured with bronze clasps that open with a low, satisfying click. Inside these reinforced cases rest the legendary astronomical maps of ancient Babylon, records of the night sky that have been meticulously gathered over centuries by observers who lived along the fertile plains of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Unlike the lightweight papyrus sheets you have been handling, these star charts are drawn on heavy, durable vellum, a material that possesses a distinct substantial weight and a silky, cool smoothness that feels incredibly comforting against your skin. As you lift the first chart from its protective casing, you can feel the rigid, unyielding nature of the vellum, a document built specifically to survive the long, slow march of time. You bring the massive chart to the cedar table, unrolling it slowly, in by inch, because the heavy vellum has a natural memory of being coiled tightly and wishes to curl back into itself. To hold it flat, you place 4 small, highly polished pieces of black hematite stone on each corner of the document. The stone spheres are cold to the touch, their surfaces so perfectly smooth that they make a gentle sliding sound as you position them. Under the steady amber glow of the copper oil lamp, the Babylonian map reveals a breathtaking view of the ancient cosmos. The ink used for these celestial diagrams is unique, created not from simple wood soot, but from finely ground minerals mixed with pure mountain water and a binding gum. The deep blue of the night sky was painted using crushed lapis lazuli, which catches the light in a very subtle, soft shimmer, while the paths of the wandering planets are marked with thin lines of copper green and deep cinnabar red. As we gaze together upon these eternal painted orbits, perhaps taking a gentle, unhurried moment to leave a soft comment below or interact with this video can help keep our shared journey alive. Staying connected with whispers of centuries ensures remains open to you whenever the modern world becomes too loud. But for now, there is absolutely no need to move, no need to accomplish anything at all. Simply let your eyes rest upon the soft colours of the ancient universe. Let your breathing expand and contract in perfect, effortless harmony with the slow rhythm of the night. You are entirely safe, completely protected, and free to let your thoughts drift out among the stars. Your eyes trace the delicate lines that connect the golden points of the constellations. Scribes from hundreds of years ago sat on high cool night air, breathing and looked up at the exact same moon and stars that illuminate our world tonight. They traced the slow, predictable path of the hunter, the steady rotation of the Great Bear, and the quiet, looping journeys of the planets. There is a profound healing peace in realizing that while human societies rise and fall, the laws of the sky remain completely unchanged. The stars do not rush, they do not falter, they move through the darkness with absolute, silent precision. This same unshakable order surrounds you in this room tonight. The ancient universe is spread out before you, captured in quiet mineral inks on a sheet of smooth vellum, protecting the wisdom of the past so you can find rest in the present. With a slow, deliberate movement, you lift the hematite stone weights one by one, letting their polished surfaces tap against the wood before placing them back into their velvet pouch. The vellum map begins to curl back into its natural, circular form with a soft, leather-on-leather whisper. You roll it tightly, your hands guiding the heavy material with an even, rhythmic pressure. You slide the map back into its mahogany case, fastening the bronze clasp with a soft metallic snap through the fault. The silent vert. You lower the cylinder into the oak crate, placing it alongside the others, knowing that the secrets of the cosmos are now safely packed away, resting in the deep, protective shadows of the archive. Your body feels heavy, Your eyelids feel beautifully relaxed, and you are ready to sink even deeper into the tranquil, unhurried silence of this ancient evening. The heavy oak crates now stand ready, their dark cavities waiting to receive the rest of the Empire's intellectual heritage. In the dim corners of the inner sanctuary, you are not entirely alone. A few loyal guardians, chosen for their absolute discretion and deep reverence for the written word, move alongside you in perfect synchronization. There is no need for spoken commands or rush directives on this night. Every person in this room understands their purpose. With a quiet certainty that requires no validation from speech, the communication between you is entirely silent, expressed through the gentle passing of leather cylinders, the holding of a lamp to illuminate a dark corner, and the shared, steady rhythm of your breathing. Watch how the shadows of your companions stretch and shift against the limestone walls, moving with the slow grace of a solemn ritual. One guardian reaches for a heavy crate, his hands gripping the iron handles with an even, measured pressure that ensures the wood does not scrape loudly against the stone wall. Another stands near the heavy cedar desk, ready to receive each wrapped scroll with open palms, cradling the ancient papyrus as if it were a fragile newborn life. The entire process has transformed into a beautiful, repetitive loop, a choreography of preservation that feels entirely removed from the concept of time. You pass a cylinder, your fingers momentarily brushing against the rough linen mantle of your companion, feeling the warm, human connection that binds you together in this. This collective effort brings a profound sense of comfort to the space. When minds are united in a singular peaceful purpose, the chaotic weight of the external world simply ceases to exist. Your breathing begins to match the slow, collective respiration of the room, a deep and unhurried rise and fall that signals to your nervous system that you are completely safe. There is an immense security in this shared rhythm, an assurance that you do not have to carry the weight of this night alone. Together, you form a living shield around the wisdom of the centuries, moving with an unhurried grace that turns labor into a form of restful meditation. The air remains cool and unstable, carrying the heavy scent of cedar oil and ancient earth that you have released into the chamber. Every small sound, from the soft friction of wool clothing against stone to the faint click of a bronze buckle and the muffled settling of a leather case, is cushioned by the vast silence of the library. These sounds do not disrupt the tranquility of the night, but rather serve as gentle anchors, pulling your focus into the immediate physical present. Let yourself sink fully into the beauty of this wordless cooperation, recognizing that the most significant acts of history are often performed in the quietest, most understated moments of human connection. Your body feels beautifully heavy, your mind is entirely at pace, and the steady works continue toward a deep, restorative rest. With the first group of heavy oak crates fully packed and nestled securely under their protective coverings, it is time to reveal the pathway that will lead this precious freight away from the surface world. You step toward the center of the inner sanctuary, where the limestone floor gives way to a single massive slab of dense, grey granite. This particular stone is flush with the floor, carefully integrated into the architecture, so that an untrained more than a structural foundation point. In the absolute center of this granite slab lies a heavy recessed ring forged from black iron, its surface rough and pitted from the natural humidity of the earth below. You kneel down slowly, placing your hands against the cool, unyielding surface of the stone, feeling the deep chill that has been trapped beneath the floor for centuries. Your fingers curl around the thick iron ring, finding the small grooves and imperfections, left by the ancient foundry worker who shaped it. The metal is incredibly cold, sending a grounding sensation through your palms that instantly focuses your awareness on the immediate physical reality of the task. With a slow, deliberate inhalation, you lean your weight back, pulling upward with a steady, uniform force that honors the immense weight of the stone hatch. As the massive granite block begins to lift, there is a deep, low grinding sound as stone slides against stone, a heavy and resonant friction that vibrates softly through the soles of your sandals and into the bedrock beneath the library. The sound is completely cushioned by the immense mass of the building, transforming into a soothing low-frequency hum that feels entirely natural and safe. The hatch swings open on its hidden bronze hinges, revealing a dark, perfectly square opening that descends into the subterranean world beneath the royal Bruchion district. Immediately, a wave of air rises from the depths, greeting your senses with a profound contrast to the dry, cedar-scented atmosphere of the upper sanctuary. This underground air is remarkably cool, crisp, and heavy with moisture, carrying the deeply grounding sense of ancient damp limes, wet river clay, and the faint mineral tang of subterranean springs. It feels incredibly refreshing as it brushes against your face, cooling your skin and carrying away the last remnants of physical fatigue. This air has been sleeping untouched in the dark channels of the earth, far removed from the sun and the weather of the surface, creating a zone of absolute temperature stability that will protect the delicate papyrus from the dry desert heat. You look down into the opening, where a series of narrow stone steps disappears into the shadows, carved directly into the living rock of the city's foundation. This is the entrance to the great system of subterranean conduits, an intricate network of hidden tunnels designed by royal palaces and the library to connect the royal palaces and to secure underground vaults. The walls of the descent are made of thick, rough-cut blocks of local limestone, showing the clear marks of the iron chisels that shaped them generations ago. There is no dust down here, only the clean, wet gleam of condensed moisture, reflecting the faint light of your oil lamp. The silence that rises from this dark opening is even deeper than the silence of the sanctuary above. A heavy, velvet stillness that promises absolute protection for everything placed within its keeping. You lower your lamp slightly into the space, watching how the small flame remains perfectly steady, undisturbed by air below flow's drafts, proving that the air below flows with a calm, predictable gentleness that is perfectly suited for rest. Taking your first step onto the descending staircase, you feel the direct cool transfer of temperature through the thin leather soles of your sandals. These steps were carved during the reign of the first Ptolemy, hewn by steady hands from the very bedrock that forms the permanent foundation of Alexandria. Each step is wide and low, designed not for a hurried escape, but for the measured, dignified passage of scholars carrying heavy burdens of papyrus and knowledge. The stone is incredibly smooth underfoot, worn down by the quiet footsteps of decades of archivists who came before you, leaving a polished hollow in the center of each tread, where countless sandals have left their gentle mark over the years. You extend your hand to touch the side wall for balance, feeling the rough, honest texture of the exposed limestone matrix. The stone is cool and slightly damp, coated with a fine microscopic mist of condensation that looks like thousands of tiny diamonds under the soft amber glow of your lamp. This moisture does not represent decay, but rather the natural breath of the deep earth, maintaining a perfect, unyielding humidity that prevents the plant fibers of the scrolls from becoming brittle in the arid air of the upper world. Your fingers trace the deep horizontal chisel marks, left by the ancient stone cutters with rhythmic ridges and grooves where the iron blades bit into the rock generations ago. The descent is a transition into an even deeper layer of silence, a quiet so profound that it seems to have a physical presence of its own. With every step downward, the air grows subtly cooler and denser, wrapping around your ankles like a soothing shroud of stillness. Your companion follows close behind, carrying one end of a heavy oak chest with an even the iron grip from brushing against the limestone walls. The only sound in this enclosed space is the soft rhythmic friction of your wool tunics brushing against the rock, meeting the solid, the stone. Each footstep is a slow, deliberate punctuation in the darkness. A calm encourages your mind to let go of any lingering tension. As you reach the midpoint of the staircase, you glance back up toward the square opening of the hatch. The warm golden light of the upper sanctuary appears distant now, a soft and comforting framing of the world you are temporarily leaving behind. Down here the shadows are longer, softer, and more enveloping, sliding gracefully across the rough carved ceiling as you move the copper lamp forward. The flame remains completely undisturbed, pointing straight up into the darkness, with a steady, unblinking clarity that brings a deep sense of psychological safety to the descent. There are no sudden drafts, no unexpected changes, only the deep and unshakable permanence of the subterranean earth. You take another slow, measured step, letting your weight settle fully onto the stone before advancing the next foot. The physical weight of the chest between you and your companion feels balanced and manageable, a shared responsibility grace that is carried with an unhurried grace. This staircase is a bridge between two worlds, a quiet conduit designed to guide the greatest treasures of human thought into the safest, most peaceful depths of the world. Let yourself sink into the steady, mechanical rhythm of this descent, feeling the solid reassurance of the ancient masonry beneath your feet and the protective embrace of the cool, quiet stone surrounding you on all sides. Reaching the foot of the carved staircase, you step onto the level floor of the subterranean corridor, a long and straight conduit that cuts deep beneath the massive foundations of the city. The darkness here is absolute, a heavy and velvety blanket that has remained undisturbed for years, waiting patiently for the gentle return of light. You pause for a moment to let your feet adjust to the perfect floor flagstones, which feel remarkably cold and solid, beneath feel remarkably the thin soles of your leather handles, attached to the damp limestone wall at regular intervals, are heavy, hand-tooled brackets made of red copper, each one holding a shallow, saucer-shaped oil lamp filled to the brim with refined castor oil. You reach out your hand to touch the first copper bracket, finding its surface slightly rough from the natural oxidation caused by the underground humidity over the decades, because the metal carries a deep, unyielding chill, a comforting physical reminder of the immense layers of bedrock and earth that separate this hidden path from the chaotic warmth of the sunlit world far above. You lift the small covered jar of embers that you carried down from the upper sanctuary, its unglazed terracotta surface feeling comfortably verkep a raw myrrh against your palms. Using a long, slender splinter of dry cedar wood, you carefully reach through the small ventilation hole of the jar to catch the glowing orange tip of a sleeping charcoal piece. The cedar wood catches fire with a tiny, sharp crackle that echoes softly down the narrow corridor, releasing a brief, sweet puff of resinous smoke into the cool air before settling into a small, steady flame. You bring this burning taper to the braided linen wick of the first copper lamp, watching as the pale oil drawn up through the tightly twisted threads catches the heat, the fire blossoms into a gentle tear-shaped orb of amber light, casting a warm and steady glow that pushes the dense shadows back by a few cubits on either side. The clean smell of burning oil immediately fills the immediate space, a rich, heavy, and comforting aroma that signifies life, in warmth, and purposeful human presence in the deep, silent quiet of the earth. With the first lamp lit, you move slowly down the corridor, transferring the flame from one copper bracket to the next with an even, unhurried cadence that matches the slow rhythm of your heartbeat, that matches the slow Bruchion. Each time a lamp is ignited, the long, narrow tunnel unfolds a bit further before you, revealing the magnificent, understated simplicity of its ancient engineering. The walls are composed of dense, grey limestone blocks fitted together so precisely by the early builders to the eye, appearing as a single, continuous shield of rock. Under the steady illumination of the growing line of lamps, the grey stone reveals a beautiful array of natural textures, from smooth, water-polished faces to rougher sections where tiny, prehistoric fragments of ancient seashells are embedded deep within the matrix. As you walk, the light from behind projects your shadow onto the walls ahead, a tall, soft-edged silhouette that glides smoothly across the stone surface, elongating and flattening in perfect harmony with your deliberate steps. The repetitive nature of this task brings a deep, meditative calmness to your mind, freeing your consciousness from any lingering thoughts of the external world. You walk a few paces, lift the cedar taper, touch the oil-soaked wick, watch the golden flame bloom, and then move forward again to the next copper bracket in the line. This steady loop of simple action creates its own peaceful universe, a space where the only realities are the gentle light, the cold grey stone, and the soft, dry rustle of your wool tunic against the cool subterranean air. The long line of copper lamps now stretches far into the distance, a beautiful glowing sequence of golden stars burning brightly in the heart of the earth. The flames are completely motionless, entirely untouched by any turbulent drafts or winds, standing as symbols of absolute security and unchanging calm. You stand at the center of this illuminated path, looking back at your companions, who are now preparing to move the heavy oak crates down the lit corridor, knowing that the journey ahead is fully prepared, protected, and blanketed in absolute peace. The long subterranean corridor is now fully illuminated by the steady amber glow of the copper lamps, casting a warm and continuous the damp limestone flagstone. Along this illuminated corridor, the guardians from form an unbroken human chain, stretching from the foot of the ancient vault staircase down into the deeper uncharted vaults of the earth. Each individual stands in their designated position, their back resting lightly against the cool, solid masonry of the wall, their silhouette casting a soft, elongated shadow that blends seamlessly with the architecture. There is a deep, unshakable solemnity in this arrangement, an understanding that tonight their hands are the living bridges across which the wisdom of humanity will travel to safety. The line is poised and ready, waiting for the first treasures to descend into the quiet, protective dark of the passage. The work begins with the same measured deliberation that has guided every action of this long evening. At the base of the stairs, the first heavy leather cylinder is lifted ver cape hat, both hands, from its temporary resting place. It is passed gently to the next person in line. Your hands reach out to receive it, feeling the substantial weight of the document and the cool, smooth texture of the cured hide. As you turn slowly to pass the cylinder to the guardian standing on your right, the movement is fluid, minimal, and entirely unhurried. The coarse wool of your heavy cloak brushes against the tunic of your companion, producing a soft, sliding murmur, gentle friction that sounds like the rustle of dry summer grass in a quiet field. This physical contact is brief but grounding, a silent reassurance shared between caretakers in the midnight deep. This hand-to-hand transition becomes a continuous rhythmic sequence that repeats with a hypnotic predictability. A cylinder is received, held for a brief moment to gauge its balance, and then delivered into the waiting palms of the next guardian. Hand over hand, the collective thought of centuries flows through the narrow corridor like a slow, quiet river of ink and parchment. The sounds generated by this cooperative effort are incredibly small and comforting, perfect, cushioned by the dense, sound-absorbing stone walls. You hear the faint, dry scrape of leather against leather as the cases of a sandal shifting from one grip to another, the muted thud of a shifting weight on the flat flagstones, and the deep, steady respiration of the men. This auditory rhythm forms a soothing tapestry of sound, a repetitive cadence that naturally clears away any wandering thoughts from your mind. There is an immense therapeutic beauty in this repetitive labour. You do not need to look down the corridor to know that the chain is working perfectly, for the rhythm itself tells you that everything is secure. Each cylinder moves at the exact same pace, travelling through the amber light and into the protective dark, completely insulated from the passing storms of the surface world. Your arms move with a heavy, natural ease, the muscles relaxed, your breath deeply synchronized with the slow pace of the passing scrolls. As you hand over the 20th cylinder, you feel a profound sense of completeness and peace. The burden of history is light when shared in such absolute stillness. Allow yourself to rest completely in this steady, comforting loop of movement, feeling the heavy, soothing quality of the night as the archive settles into its eternal sanctuary. The human chain continues its steady work as we begin to handle the most ancient and sacred portion of the library, the native Egyptian chronicles that predate the Greek Ptolemaic dynasty by thousands of years. These scrolls are kept in heavy chests carved from native sycamore fig wood, a tree deeply tied to the soil and mythology of the Nile Valley. When your hands lift these particular containers, you can feel that they possess a completely different weight and texture compared to the Mediterranean imports. Recombs. The wood is slightly softer, holding a faint dry warmth that smells distinctly of desert sun, river silt, and the ancient resinous balsams used in the sacred temples of Memphis and Thebes, where as you slide the heavy wooden lid open, the air in the immediate space becomes thick with the scent of dried lotus petals, old myrrh, and the mineral tang of natron, a preservation salt that has kept these sheets immaculate across immense stretches of time. You carefully extract a massive scrolls, written in the ancient hieratic script, the flowing cursive form of the sacred hieroglyphs used by the temple scribes. This document contains the grand genealogies of the early pharaohs, tracing lines of divine kings back to the mythical age when the gods first walked upon the earth. The papyrus used for these native records is darker than the pale Greek sheets, having aged into a rich deep tobacco brown that shows the natural maturity of the plant. Your fingers trace the vertical columns of text, feeling the distinct texture of the ink which was mixed with fine charcoal and pure honey, giving the characters a subtle, raised profile that you can read with your fingertips in the dim light. The scribe used brilliant red cinnabar ink to highlight the names of the legendary rulers and the dates of important temple festivals, creating a striking contrast that catches the warm amber light of the copper lamp with a quiet, solemn intensity. There is a profound, comforting silence that settles over you as you look upon these ancient records of human existence. You are holding the memories of an empire that watched the construction of the great pyramids, written in a language that was already old, when Rome was nothing more than a cluster of mud huts on the hills. Every symbol on the page is a testament to the human desire to be remembered, to cast a voice forward through the deep dark of time, so that it might be heard by future generations. The repetitive nature of your movements, as you wrap this ancient scroll in unbleached linen, creates a deep sense of psychological safety. You take the fabric, smooth it flat against the papyrus casing with your palms, and slowly roll it into a neat cylinder, finding total solace in the quiet predictability of the task. You pass the wrapped Egyptian chronicle to the next guardian in the subterranean chain, watching it glide smoothly into the golden circle of light, cast by the next copper lamp, the sound of the linen shadow sliding across your companion wool sleeve is a soft, satisfying whisper that seems to echo the quiet flow of the Nile itself. The dark, ancient vault of the earth welcomes these native records with an absolute unchanging stability, providing a protective womb where the sacred wisdom of the pharaohs can rest completely undisturbed by the political fires of the surface world. Your body feels beautifully relaxed. Your hands move with a heavy natural grace as you reach down to lift the next sycamore chest from the stack. As the human chain continues its steady, rhythmic movement of the ancient chronicles, a profound moment of contrast ripples through the subterranean world. Deep within the bedrock, far below the foundation layers of the royal Bruchion district, the earth acts as a massive filter for the chaotic events taking place on the surface. Far above and away, the harbour of Alexandria is gripped by the political struggles of the Roman Empire and the Egyptian court, where wood and metal clash under a smoke-filled sky. Yet, down here in the heart of the limestone conduit, that vast external commotion is reduced to nothing more than a faint, microscopic tremor, a low-frequency hum that passes through the thousands of tons of solid rock before reaching the soles of your feet. You stand perfectly still for a moment, your hands resting flat against a large limestone block, feeling this subtle vibration as it dissipates into the unyielding earth. It is not a sound that you hear with your ears, but rather a gentle, deep frequency that you absorb through your body, a silent reminder of the immense protection that the underground architecture provides. To observe this tiny ripple in the absolute silence of the vault is to understand the true nature of your sanctuary. The world above may shift and turn, but the solid bedrock remains completely indifferent, absorbing the shocks of human history and transforming them into a stable stillness. Nearby, a shallow copper basin filled vei-kepte, hat-clear water rests on a low stone pedestal, acting as a natural level for the subterranean workers. You watch the surface of the water under the steady amber glow of a nearby lamp. A tiny circular ripple forms at the outer edge of the basin, gliding smoothly toward the center, before vanishing into perfect flatness once again. The water becomes completely still, reflecting the small unchanging flame of the lamp without a single distortion. This minor movement does not bring fear or urgency into the space. Instead, it reinforces the absolute safety of the vault. The layers of stone above you are so dense and thick that they act as an unbreakable shield, ensuring that the precious cargo passing through your hands remains entirely untouched by the passing storm. The guardians in the chain do not break their rhythm. They receive the linen-wrapped deliberate care, their movements unhurried and precise. Curls, whisker, the faint tremor passes, leaving the underground corridor even more quiet and secure than it was before. The heavy mineral-scented air settles back into its familiar, cool equilibrium, carrying the comforting smells of damp limestone and castor oil. You feel a deep sense of philosophical calm wash over your mind as you accept the next scroll from your companion. The loudest conflicts of humanity are temporary, but the quiet work of preservation is eternal, anchored deep within the silent, protective shadows of the earth. The steady movement of your hands continues, as a quiet wave of philosophical contemplation settles deep within your mind. Standing in the soft glow of the underground corridor, you find yourself reflecting on the strange and profound paradox of fire. Throughout human history, the flame has been viewed as a great destroyer, an unyielding force that reduces grand monuments, timber ships, and lavish palaces to nothing but black ash and fleeting memories. Yet, on this specific night, the fire raging far away in the harbour reveals its true, hidden nature as a catalyst for preservation. It is the outer threat of destruction that has forced this great library to look inward, choosing to descend into the quiet embrace of the earth, where its true wealth can be hidden safely from the passage of worldly ambition. You look down at the small copper oil lamp resting in the wall bracket immediately beside you, its tiny flame pointing straight up. Ver capiter had absolute stillness. This small fire does not destroy. Instead, it serves as a gentle guide, illuminating the path for human thought to endure. There is a beautiful irony in the fact that while a great fire consumes the material world above, a sequence of tiny controlled fires down here is ensuring the immortality of human wisdom. The physical structures of the library, the grand marble wooden shelves, are temporary assemblies of matter, destined to return to the earth eventually. But the words contained within these scrolls, the mathematical laws, the philosophical arguments, and the poetic expressions of the soul, are fundamentally formless and eternal, entirely beyond the reach of any physical flame. The shadows created by the lamp move with a slow, predictable grace across the vaulted ceiling, mimicking the slow dance of human consciousness as it drifts toward sleep. You realize that by placing these documents into the deep, dark veins of the limestone earth, you are participating in a timeless natural cycle. Just as a seed must be buried deep within the dark, cool soil during the winter months to protect its inner life before blooming in the spring, so too must the collective knowledge of humanity be hidden away in this subterranean womb to survive the changing seasons of political empires. The dark is not a place of loss, but a sanctuary of potential, a quiet space where the truth can rest undisturbed, until the world above is ready to receive its light once more. This realization brings an unshakable sense of peace to your chest, removing any lingering weight of urgency from your actions. Your hands move to accept the next linen-wrapped bundle with a heavy natural ease, your fingers feeling the coarse grain of the fabric and the solid form of the document beneath it. The work is no longer a task of frantic salvage, but a solemn, beautiful ritual of transition. You pass the bundle to your companion, watching it move out of your circle of light and into the next, a single drop in a slow, continuous river of preservation. The underground corridor remains perfectly still, blanketed in a protective and eternal, feels deeply protective and eternal, guiding your mind into a state of total, restful calm. The continuous, silent river of preservation flows onward through the illuminated limestone corridor, and your hands now reach for a section of the archive that holds a completely different kind of historical weight. Moving away from the heavy, rigid chests of mathematics and royal genealogies, you turn your attention to a series of elegant cases, crafted from polished boxwood. This delicate wood has a pale buttery golden hue that catches the amber glow of the copper oil lamps, revealing a remarkably fine, swirling grain that feels completely smooth and almost silky under your fingertips. These cases contain the surviving works of lyric poetry from the ancient Aegean world, most notably the deeply personal, emotive verses of Sappho. Unlike the state documents, these scrolls represent soft, intimate sighs of human emotion, capturing the timeless experiences of love, longing, and the quiet beauty of the natural world. Because these texts are written on an exceptionally thin, premium grade of papyrus, they require the absolute highest level of gentle handling and deliberate care. As you slowly slide the boxwood cap away from the main cylinder, the gentle friction between the perfectly fitted wooden components creates a soft, clean sliding sound that breaks the subterranean silence like a tender whisper. The moment the case opens, a faint and incredibly nostalgic aroma rises into the cool, damp air of the tunnel. It is a delicate blend of dried rose petals, lavender sprigs, and the sweet resinous scent of mastic gum, which ancient archivist assistants placed inside the poetry cases generations ago to keep the earthy dampness of the vaults. On the Parian spear, you reach into the cylinder with 2 fingers, gently pinching the central ivory rod and slowly extract the precious document. The papyrus is remarkably light, almost weightless in your hands, possessing the soft, pliable texture of fine fabric rather than the rigid structure of common writing materials. To protect these invaluable expressions of the human soul during their long journey through the deep earth, you prepare a special shroud of unbleached, entirely natural linen cloth. A large bolt of this raw fabric sits on a low limestone bench beside your station, its colour the warm, honest shade of natural flax fibres dried under the Mediterranean sun. You spread a long section of the linen across the cedar surface of your workspace, running your palms over the material to smooth out any folds or creases. The texture of the unbleached linen is pleasantly rough and substantial, its thick, uneven threads creating a beautiful organic grid that provides a cushioned layer of defense for the fragile scroll. Using heavy bronze shears, you make a long, slow cut through the fabric, the blades making a rhythmic, satisfying snap-sap as they part the tightly woven threads in the absolute quiet of the vault. You place the delicate poetry scroll at the very edge of the linen square, aligning it perfectly with the grain of the cloth, with movements that are intentionally slowed to a meditative pace. You begin to roll the fabric around the boxwood casing. The interaction between the rough natural flax fibres and the smooth polished wood produces a continuous, soft rustling sound, a gentle and dry murmur that fills the immediate space around you, like the sound of a quiet summer breeze moving through a field of tall grass. This repetitive mechanical action allows your mind to completely let go of any external thoughts, anchoring your awareness entirely with the soothing texture of the cloth and the steady progress of your hands. And you fold the excess linen over the ends of the cylinder with a precise, clean tuck, ensuring that not a single patch of the original case remains exposed to the air. As you lift the fully wrapped bundle, you can feel the beautiful balance between the light, artistic soul of the poetry inside, the heavy protective mass of the protective fabric surrounding it, and the heavy. You turn to your right and pass the bundle to the next guardian in the subterranean chain. The hand-to-hand transition is executed with perfect grace, a wordless agreement between caretakers who recognize the immense value of what they are holding. The wrapped scroll moves smoothly out of your circle of amber light and into the next, joining the steady, unbroken sequence of preservation that is. Clearing the library, the air remains cool, carrying the sweet scent of ancient lavender and raw linen, creating a deeply comforting atmosphere that wraps around your senses, making your body feel pleasantly heavy and guiding your mind into a state of total, unshakable tranquility. The steady rhythm of the human chain pauses briefly at your station as we begin the sacred ritual of sealing, an ancient practice that transforms a simple container into an airtight vault capable of defying the passage of centuries. Resting on a low tripod over a carefully shielded oil flame sits a small deep ladle crafted from heavy red copper. Inside this vessel lies a generous block of pure unrefined desert beeswax, gathered from the sun-drenched apiaries along the fertile margins of the Fayoum oasis, as the gentle heat from the flame slowly transfers through the thick metal. The solid wax begins its quiet, beautiful transformation. The opaque golden block softens at its edges, losing its rigid form and melting down into a smooth, glistening pool of rich amber liquid. The air in the immediate space becomes deeply comforting, filled with the thick, sweet aroma of wild honey, sun-baked desert flora, and the faint grounding smell of natural resin. This warm, enveloping scent acts as a soothing balm for your senses, filling your lungs with a profound feeling of safety and undisturbed calm. This story is inspired by the final days of the Great Library of Alexandria, where dedicated archivists secretly relocated ancient scrolls to hidden underground vaults. We have adapted these true historical events into a unique, immersive narrative, creating an entirely original copyrighted script for this channel. Each linen-wrapped cylinder is bound tightly with a dual strand of unbleached flax cord, the knots tied with the protective layers. To ensure that no moisture can ever penetrate the protective layers, you take a small spoon carved from smooth, polished ox bone and dip it carefully into the liquid wax. The bone spoon glides through the dense gold fluid with a silent, heavy ease, lifting just enough of the warm wax to coat the closure. With a steady and completely unhurried hand, you pour a perfect circular pool of molten beeswax directly over the central knot of the flax twine. The liquid ver kepeik flows smoothly into the coarse crevices of the linen thread, sealing the fibers together in an unbreakable protective bond. You watch with quiet fascination as the wax begins to cool almost instantly in the crisp air of the subterranean corridor, its surface transitioning from a shiny translucent amber into a solid, opaque cream colour that feels completely smooth and slightly tacky to the touch. Before the wax hardens completely, you lift the heavy bronze signet stamp of the Royal Archive from its velvet cushion on the cedar table. The metal is dense and cool, its circular face deeply carved with the ancient emblem of the library, a symbol of eternal wisdom and protection. You press the cold bronze face firmly into the soft, yielding mound of warm wax, applying a steady, uniform pressure that requires no sudden effort or strain. You feel a deeply satisfying resistance as the pliable wax rises up to fill the intricate grooves of the carved metal. Holding the seal in place for a few quiet heartbeats, the wax to set, permanently locking the official mark of the collection into the material. When you lift the bronze stamp away, with a slow impression remains, a silent guardian that guarantees the integrity of the scroll within. You pass the freshly sealed document to the next guardian in the line, its sweet honeyed scent trailing behind it into the dark, secure vault of the earth. Once the heavy oak crates are securely packed, and the beeswax seals have fully hardened into solid ivory emblems of protection, the process of moving these massive repositories deeper into the labyrinthine subterranean network begins. Along the centre of the flagstone floor runs a highly specialised feature of Ptolemaic engineering, a pair of parallel grooves carved directly into the dense granite bedrock. These stone tracks are polished to a mirror-like finish, designed specifically to facilitate the movement of immense weights with the absolute minimum of friction and noise, to ensure a perfectly fluid motion. An archivist lightly applies a thin coating of purified animal tallow, blended with oil of wintergreen along the stone channels. The scent that rises from the tracks is clean, heavy, and deeply grounding, a clinical and protective aroma that speaks of mechanical precision and physical order. You place your hands against the thick, rough-hewn back of the oak chest, your palms finding the natural ridges of the wood, and prepare to guide it along the stone pathway. With a coordinated, gentle lean of your body, you apply a steady forward pressure. There is no sudden jerk or violent strain, only a smooth, beautifully controlled transition from stillness to motion. As the heavy wooden base of the crate slides into the lubricated granite grooves, it produces a magnificent low-frequency sound that resonates through the entire length of the corridor. It is a deep, muffled rumble, a continuous and incredibly satisfying slide that sounds like distant thunder rolling over a quiet desert plain. This sound is so low and deep that you feel it as much in your chest as you hear it with your ears, a steady, hypnotic vibration that immediately calms the nervous system and anchors your mind in a state of absolute tranquility. The chest glides forward with a surreal, weightless ease, its immense mass converted into a gentle, predictable momentum that feels entirely safe and comforting. The rhythm of pushing the crates along the granite tracks becomes the dominant heartbeat of the subterranean sanctuary. You move a chest a few paces, watching its iron-reinforced corners pass smoothly through the circles of amber light cast by the copper wall lamps before delivering it to the next tracking station, where another guardian waits to continue its progress. The sliding sound repeats in a continuous, looping cadence, a steady whisper of wood meeting stone that effortlessly dissolves any remaining tension in your body. There is a profound sense of security in watching these massive containers move so hidden from the chaos of the surface world. Come the comb. No, you reach down to align the next oak crate with the stone grooves. Your movements slow and even perfectly attuned to the deep, unhurried mechanics of this ancient night. Nor after guiding the heavy oak crates along the smooth granite tracks, a natural moment of pause arises in the subterranean workspace. You step back from the stone conduit and approach a low alcove carved directly into the limestone wall, where the air feels slightly crisper and completely untouched by the scent of cedar oil or Viceparuma beeswax. Sitting securely in a heavy wooden ring stand is a large, elegant clay vessel, a twin-handled amphora used by the library workers to store fresh drinking water, brought down from the secure royal cisterns. The exterior of the unglazed terracotta clay is remarkably cool to the touch, covered in a fine microscopic layer of condensation that feels like a velvet dew under your palms. This specific type of river clay is beautifully porous, allowing a tiny amount of moisture to evaporate through its walls, a natural cooling mechanism that keeps the water inside remarkably cold, even deep within the earth. Your fingers trace the curved horizontal ridges left by the ancient potter's wheel, feeling the honest, gritty texture of the red earth that was harvested from the banks of the Nile and baked to a perfect, solid permanence. You lift a small, shallow drinking cup made of the same unglazed terracotta stone, its weight light and balanced in your hand, grasping the heavy handles of the amphora with a slow, deliberate movement. You tilt the vessel forward to pour a steady stream of water into the cup. In the complete silence of the vault, the sound of the liquid hitting the clay basin is incredibly crisp and pure, a gentle, splashing murmur that echoes softly down the dark corridor, like the sound of a small hidden spring inside a quiet cavern. The water is perfectly clear, having been filtered multiple times through layers of fine desert sand and crushed charcoal to remove all impurities. When you bring the clay cup to your lips, you feel the soothing chill of the water against your skin. Before you even take a drink, a sensory contrast that immediately focuses your awareness on the simple grounding beauty of the present moment. You take a slow, unhurried sip, letting the remarkably cool, refreshing liquid rest in your mouth for a moment before swallowing. The water has a clean, faint mineral taste, an honest and life-giving flavour that instantly cools your parched throat and washes away the dry dust of the ancient archives. There is a deep psychological satisfaction in this simple act of replenishment. As the cold water travels down, you can feel your entire body relaxing, a wave of physical relief spreading outward to your shoulders, your arms and your chest. You lean your back against the solid, unyielding limestone wall, taking a deep, even breath of the cool, subterranean air. The passage of time down here is entirely separate from the world above, moving with a heavy, deliberate pace that honours the immense survival of human thought. There is no rush, no pressure, and no demands on your energy. In this quiet alcove, you are completely supported by the ancient rock, completely safe in the darkness, and free to let your mind settle into a state of total, serene stillness. You set the empty clay cup back onto the wooden stand with a soft, dull click, ready to return to your sacred work with a renewed sense of absolute peace. As you rest your hand against the cool, ancient limestone wall of the corridor, a profound clarity unfolds within your mind. For centuries to come, the world outside will propagate a sorrowful myth, a grand narrative of total destruction that laments this night as the absolute end of the ancient world's wisdom. Future generations will read dramatic accounts of how the flame consumed every mathematical proof and ever recorded by the great minds of antiquity. And they will envision a tragic void where knowledge was swallowed by ash, leaving humanity to wander through intellectual darkness. But standing here in the absolute stillness of this subterranean sanctuary, you hold the quiet, unshakable truth of what is actually occurring. The great library is not dying tonight. It is simply learning how to seek the safety of the deep earth. The archaeological reality of this institution is built on absolute permanence, far too vast to be erased by a single conflict in the harbour. What the fires above are touching is merely the surface, the outer storehouses and commercial docks where common shipping manifests and duplicate trade scrolls are kept near the water. The true intellectual core, the master copies of philosophies, medicine and geometry, reside deep within this royal Bruchion quarter, safely insulated behind thick masonry, and protected by the silent, dedicated vigilance of caretakers just like you. This midnight operation is the proof that the thread of human civilization was never broken. It merely slipped beneath the surface of history, flowing like an underground river that continues to run pure and undisturbed while the storms gust rage across the landscape far above. There is an immense therapeutic comfort in realizing that history is often shehat, more resilient than the dramatic stories people tell about it, the thoughts of the great masters that vanish at the first sign of heat. They are meticulous that survive, they are enduring truths of ordinary hands, through the quiet, meticulous dedication of ordinary hands. As you look at the long line of lit copper lamps casting their warm, unchanging glow down the path, you see a visual representation of this eternal continuity. Every scroll that passes through the human chain, every beeswax seal that hardens into a shield of protection, and every heavy oak crate that settles into the lower bedrock, is a guaranteed bridge to the future. The wisdom of the past is being woven directly into the permanent fabric of the earth, where no changing political tide can reach it. Your body feels beautifully relaxed as this understanding settles into your chest. removing any trace of urgency from your movements. You reach down to accept the next linen-wrapped cylinder from your companion, your fingers appreciating the simple, honest weight of the parchment and the coarse texture of the natural flat. You pass it forward with a heavy, natural grace, your breathing deep and perfectly synchronized with the steady cadence of the vault. The world above can keep its loud temporary legends of ruin, for you are standing within the real, quiet truth of preservation. Everything is safe, the archive is secure, and you are free to let your mind drift deeper into a state of total, unyielding peace. Step forward along the descending incline of the stone floor, noticing how the architecture subtly transits as we reach the lowest tier of the subterranean network. The precisely fitted limestone blocks of the upper corridors fade away, replaced by the rough monolithic presence of the living bedrock itself. This is the dark, ancient stone that forms the unbreakable root of the Alexandrian peninsula, that has remained completely shielded, was completely unmoved since the dawn of creation. The temperature here reaches its absolute equilibrium, a crisp, constant chill that never varies by a single the conflicts that on the surface of the world. That occur on the surface of the world. As you place your hand against this raw stone surface, you can feel the immense, silent power of the earth, an unyielding mass that offers a perfect, eternal sanctuary for the delicate cargo we are delivering tonight. As you move deeper into this low-ceilinged vault, your senses detect a remarkable shift in the quality of the cool air, mingling with the warm resinous scents of cedar oil and dried papyrus that have followed you down from the scriptorium. There is a new, unmistakable presence. It is a faint, crisp aroma of ocean salt, a clean and mineral-rich scent that has travelled through the microscopic fissures of the bedrock, not direct from the deep floor of the Mediterranean Sea. The seawater, filtering slowly through hundreds of yards of dense coastal stone, has been stripped of its violent waves and stormy nature, leaving behind only this pure, cooling salinity that glides softly through the dark chamber. You trace your fingertips along a thin horizontal seam in the rock, finding a gentle trail of mineral condensation that tastes faintly of the great sea outside. This saltiness acts as a natural purifier for the vault, keeping the atmosphere clean crisp, ensuring the ancient ink the ancient ink on the pages will never fade or decay. This ultimate chamber represents the absolute core of the library's defensive architecture, a secret vault designed vulnerable to truth of civilization. Human specifically, the Guardians move with an even greater level of reverence in this deep space, their footsteps completely silent on the damp rock floor. One by one, the heavy oak chests are brought into the circular room and arranged in neat, orderly rows against the curved walls. The sound of each crate settling into its final resting place is a deep, resonant thud that echoes with a heavy finality, a sound that tells your mind the mission of this long night has been perfectly achieved. You stand at the center of this pristine underground room, looking at the secure fortress of wood and stone that now holds the thoughts of the masters, feeling an overwhelming wave of relaxation wash over your body. You are at the very bottom of the world, wrapped in layers of silence from all noise, and fully prepared to let your mind drift away, a deep, restful sleep into a deep, rest sleep. With the heavy oak crates now resting in their permanent positions against the bedrock walls, the final phase of sealing the inner sanctuary core begins. You turn your attention to a small pedestal, carved from a single block of dark basalt stone that stands exactly at the geometric center of this circular room. On top of this pillar rests the final document of the night, a heavy inventory codex written on thick parchment and bound between two tablets of hammered bronze. This codex serves as the master key to the hidden archive, listing every scroll, chest and specific niche where the Empire's knowledge has been laid to rest. Your fingers brush across the cold, textured metal of the bronze binding, feeling the deep lines where the chief archivist engraved the structural coordinates of the vault. The metal holds a dense, substantial chill, grounding your senses in the absolute finality of this moment. You open the bronze cover with a slow metallic ring, a clear tone that resonates softly through the stone chamber before being absorbed by the heavy silence, or called by the heavy silence. Under the amber light of your copper lamp, the parchment page reveals columns of neat, uniform black script, each line representing a lifetime of collective human thought that is now securely hidden from the world above. You take a small stylus made of polished ivory and carefully trace the final entry on the register, verifying that every single document has been accounted for and safely delivered to the bedrock womb. The tactile sensation of the smooth ivory sliding across the textured surface of the premium parchment is incredibly satisfying, a rhythmic, predictable movement that signals not the perfect completion of your sacred duty. The entire intellectual lineage of the ancient world is fully gathered, organized, and protected within this stone fortress. To maintain the perfect, dry equilibrium of the air inside this deep vault across the coming centuries, you prepare the final environmental safeguard of the chamber. Near the base of the basalt pedestal sits a large brazier forged from blackened iron, filled with dried chunks of high-grade charcoal, blended with dried chunks of aromatic frankincense resin. You lean down slowly, your knees bending with a calm control, and bring your oil taper to the edge of the iron basin. As the flame touches the charcoal, a tiny golden glow begins to spread across the dark fragments, expanding outward in a slow, uniform circle. A thin, perfectly straight column of pale rises toward the ceiling, carrying a rich, deeply soothing fragrance of warm pine resin, clean wood ash, and the dry, sweet earthiness of natural frankincense. This heavy, comforting aroma immediately fills the circular room, creating a protective atmosphere that will absorb moisture and repel decay. You stand back up into the fragrant, warm air, letting a deep and unhurried breath fill your chest with the calming essence of the resin. The small coals emit a steady, rhythmic warmth that contrasts beautifully with the permanent chill of the bedrock walls, creating a sense of absolute comfort and safety in the deep heart of the earth. You close the bronze master inventory book, securing its heavy metal clasp with a soft, clean click that echoes like a gentle promise through the silent room. Every preparation has been made, every lock has been checked, and every treasure is now wrapped in layers of linen, wood, wax, and solid stone. You look around the illuminated vault one final time, watching how the soft amber shadows dance gracefully across the rows of oak of crates, knowing that the wisdom of humanity is completely secure, entirely insulated from the passing storms of the world, and resting in a state of eternal, unshakable peace. With the inner chamber fully prepared, and the master inventory codex resting securely under its bronze shroud, you begin your slow, deliberate retreat from the absolute core of the subterranean fortress. You lift the primary copper oil lamp from its stone shelf, holding it slightly ahead of you to cast a warm, shifting aura of amber light across the threshold. Before stepping away, you pause to take one final look at the completed work. The rows of heavy oak crates stand in perfect, silent alignment against the raw bedrock walls, looking like ancient, sleeping sentinels guarding the collective memory of human civilization. The air inside the room has grown pleasantly warm from the glowing charcoal brazier, thick with the rich, heavy fragrance of frankincense and sun-dried pine resin that creates a visible, gentle haze near the ceiling. This aromatic cloud hangs motionless in the still air, a protective canopy that will shield the delicate papyrus from the ravages of time. You step backward across the stone doorway, your sandals making a soft, dry scuff against the granite floor as you transition back into the cool corridor outside. The final act of physical isolation requires the closing of the vault's massive stone portal, a monolithic block of dark diorite, engineered to slide into place with absolute precision. You and your companion place your hands against the outer edge of this giant stone slab, finding the deep, hand-carved grips designed for this purpose. The rock is incredibly dense and cold, immediately drawing away the residual warmth of the inner chamber from your skin, and replacing it with the heavy, ancient chills of the mountainous root. With a unified, unhurried lean of your bodies, you apply a steady, continuous pressure against the stone. There is no sudden jar or frantic exertion, only a magnificent, slow sliding motion as the diorite block glides along its lubricated bronze tracks hidden beneath the floor. A deep, hollow rumble echoes through the subterranean network, a low-frequency hum that sounds like the distant rhythmic grinding of ocean tides against a rocky cliff. This deep vibration travels up through your arms and into your chest, delivering a powerful sensation of psychological closure and absolute safety to your mind. With a final, muted thud that vibrates softly through the flagstones under your feet, the massive stone door settles into its permanent limestone frame, sealing the inner chamber completely from the outer world. The joint between the door and the wall is so perfectly tight that the light from your lamp cannot penetrate even a fraction of an inch into the space beyond. Behind that thick shield of diorite, the treasures of the ancient world are now resting in absolute, undisturbed darkness, wrapped in their layers of linen, wood, wax, and sweet frankincense smoke. The silence that follows the closing of the door is deeper and more profound than any quiet you have experienced before, a dense, velvety stillness that fills the underground corridor. You stand perfectly still, your breathing slow and even, listening to the magnificent absence of sound that confirms the success of your long mission. The archive is safe, hidden so deeply within the bones of the earth that no fire or changing empire can ever disturb its eternal rest. Turning your back upon the sealed monolithic doorway, you begin the slow, measured journey back through the long subterranean corridor, retracing the exact path that brought the Empire's greatest treasures to their eternal resting place. The long sequence of copper oil lamps still burns brightly along the limestone walls, creating a beautiful recrossing pattern of warm golden light and soft, elongated shadows that stretch out before you. Now that the immense task of transportation and sealing is complete, a profound shift occurs within your physical body. The adrenaline of the midnight hour fully recedes, replaced by a deep, heavy wave of exhaustion that settles into your shoulders, your lower back, and the muscles of your arms. Maybe every step you take feels beautifully weighted, a deliberate and unhurried movement that honors the absolute quiet of the deep earth. Your leather sandals meet the solid granite flagstones with a soft, comforting cadence, a rhythmic tap that serves as the only heartbeat in this silent underground world. As you walk past each red copper bracket, you lift a small, shallow cap made of unglazed terracotta clay to extinguish the lamps, systematically returning the lower corridor to the peaceful darkness it has kept for generations. You place the clay cap gently over the first flickering flame, smothering the fire with a soft, muffled click as the ceramic meets the copper rim. Instantly, The golden light vanishes from that section of the wall, and a thin, delicate wisp of pale grey smoke rises into the cool air, carrying the rich, toasted aroma of charred linen and cooling castor oil. This scent is deeply grounding, and the sanctuary is being returned to its hidden, undisturbed state. You move to the next lamp in the sequence, repeating the action with an even, meditative rhythm. Lift the cap, lower it over the light, hear the quiet click, and feel the cool darkness slide gracefully over your shoulders from behind. The darkness does not feel hostile or cold. Rather, it feels like a soft velvet blanket that follows you closely, protecting the sealed vault and wrapping the entire lower network in an unbreakable shroud of total security. With every lamp you extinguish, the illuminated path ahead was shorter, drawing your focus closer to the immediate present and the soothing mechanics of your own movement. Your companion walks a few paces ahead, his dark wool cloak shifting softly against the limestone masonry, creating a continuous dry whisper that cushions the silence. The air around you remains remarkably crisp and stable, still carrying that faint, refreshing hint of Mediterranean sea salt that filters down through the deep fissures of the bedrock. Your breathing slows down naturally, matching the unhurried pace of your steps as you journey upward toward the base of the carved stone staircase. You feel an overwhelming sense of emotional and physical relief washing over your mind. The scrolls are safe, the door is sealed, and the light is being tucked away, leaving the great library's core to sleep in perfect eternal peace. Your eyelids are beginning to feel wonderfully heavy, perfectly attuned to the slow, dark, and beautiful tranquility that is reclaiming the heart of the earth. You arrive at the base of the carved stone staircase, where the flat granite flagstones of the corridor meet the first rising step of the ancient limestone ascent. Behind you, the long subterranean tunnel has been returned to its natural primordial darkness, a vast and silent void that cradles the CCLD of human wisdom in absolute security. Only the single copper lamp in your hand remains lit, casting a soft flickering pool of amber light around your feet and illuminating the lower tiers of the rock-cut stairs. You pause for a quiet moment, letting your weight settle fully into the ground, absorbing the deep stability of the earth before beginning your ascent back to the surface world. Your physical fatigue has deepened into a beautiful, heavy sensation that wraps around your limbs, turning every motion into a slow, deliberate act of meditation. You lift your foot and place it firmly onto the first step, feeling the instant transfer of the stone-s deep chill through the thin leather of your sandal. These steps, hewn directly from the bedrock, are remarkably wide and low, engineered to prevent any rushed or clumsy movement. As you ascend, your body moves with a heavy, natural cadence, each step a predictable and comforting rhythm that echoes softly in the enclosed space. You extend your hand to touch the side wall for guidance, your fingers sliding over the rough texture of the exposed limestone matrix. The stone feels slightly damp against your palm, coated with a fine mist of condensation that sparkles like microscopic stars under the passing glow of your lamp. Your fingertips trace the ancient chisel marks left by the builders, a tactile connection to the past that reinforces the profound continuity of this sacred space. With every step upward, the atmosphere undergoes a subtle, beautiful transformation. The air, which had been cool, dense, and rich, with the mineral scent of subterranean sea salt, begins to lighten. You can feel a gentle, dry warmth filtering down from the upper sanctuary, carrying the lingering aromas of dried papyrus, rich cedar oil, and the faint sweetness of sleeping honey from the scriptorium. This mingling of elements creates a unique sensory bridge between the deep vault of the earth and the library above. Your breathing remains deep, slow, with the steady rise of your feet, each inhalation filling your lungs with the comforting, clean sense of the archive, signaling to your mind that the heavy labour of the night is beautifully complete. You look up toward the square opening of the hatch at the top of the stairs, where the warm glow of the sanctuary lamps forms a soft, welcoming frame. The distance feels manageable and safe, a gentle transition from the absolute isolation of the bedrock to the quiet, protective space of the library. Your companion moves just a few paces ahead, his dark wool cloak brushing against the masonry with that familiar, dry whisper that has accompanied you through every hour of this midnight mission. Myrtus. There is no urgency to reach the top, no pressure to hasten your stride. You simply allow yourself to exist within the soothing loop of the ascent, enjoying the heavy, relaxed quality of your muscles and the absolute peace that fills your mind. Step by step, the deep earth delivers you backward, holding the great archive safe within its bones, while guiding you toward a profound and well-deserved rest. Emerging fully from the narrow stone opening, you step back onto the level floor of the upper sanctuary, your sandals transitioning from the cold, damp limestone of the staircase to the smooth, dry marble of the library chambers. The contrast between the two environments is immediately apparent to your senses. The air up here, while still exceptionally quiet and peaceful, carries a gentle, lingering warmth that feels remarkably comforting against your skin after the crisp, absolute chill of the subterranean vaults. The familiar rich aromas of aged papyrus, fine reed ink, and the soothing essence of cedar oil envelope you like a welcoming embrace, signalling to your tired mind that the monumental journey into the earth is completely finished. The golden light from the remaining oil lamps on the cedar desk casts long, soft shadows across the empty bookshelves, creating an atmosphere of profound serenity and accomplished purpose. You turn back to face the open square hatch, ready to perform the final act of physical isolation for the hidden archive below. You and your companion kneel down on the smooth marble floor, your movements slow, coordinated, and heavy with the natural fatigue of the late hour, grasping the thick, recessed iron ring of the massive granite slab. You lift it slightly to clear the safety bronze catches before guiding the heavy stone block back into its original position. The immense mass of the granite responds to your steady, uniform pressure, sliding smoothly across the guide lips with a deep, muffled grinding sound that resonates through the floorboards and slowly fades into the structure of the building. With a precise final alignment, the granite hatch settles flush into the floor matrix, its borders fitting so perfectly into the surrounding stone that it appears, once again, as nothing more than a solid, permanent foundation point. The finality of the closure is punctuated by a small, distinct sound as you release your grip on the heavy iron handle. The black ring drops flat into its recessed groove with a sharp, metallic click that echoes softly through the vaulted ceilings before being instantly swallowed by the vast, velvet silence of the sanctuary. You remain on your knees for a few moments, your palms resting flat against the cool surface of the granite block, feeling the complete absence of any vibration from the depths below. The separation between the surface world and the eternal repository is now absolute and complete. Behind those thousands of tons of solid bedrock and dense masonry, the collective wisdom of centuries rests in perfect undisturbed safety, entirely beyond the reach of human conflict or the passing storms of history. A wave of profound emotional and physical relief washes over your entire body, clearing away any remaining tension from your muscles. Your breathing slows down to a deep, unhurried rhythm that matches the quiet pulse of the sleeping library. You stand up slowly, your limbs feeling beautifully heavy and relaxed, and look out across the dark, elegant hall of the scriptorium. The midnight air flows gently through the high, narrow windows, carrying a faint, refreshing breeze from the distant sea that cools your face. There is no more work to be done, no more scrolls to count, and no more weights to carry. The sanctuary is secure, the truth has been preserved, and you are entirely free to surrender your awareness to the soothing, protective darkness of the night, letting your mind drift toward a deep and restorative sleep. You stand up from the smooth granite slab and take a slow, deliberate step across the polished marble floor of the central scriptorium. The great hall, which only hours ago was a hive of quiet, intense focus, is now completely empty of human movement, transformed into a vast gallery of shadows and stillness. The long rows of cedar wood desks stand vacant, their writing surfaces clean and bare, reflecting the soft fading light of the few remaining oil lamps. You begin to walk down the main aisle of the sanctuary, your leather sandals creating a rhythmic, barely audible whisper against the cool stone. The air is beautifully still, holding the rich concentrated essence of the library. A comforting blend of dried papyrus fibres, old linen bindings, and the clean, medicinal aroma of pine resin. This familiar scent brings a profound sense of familiarity and psychological safety, wrapping around your senses like a protective mantle as you move through the dark space. You approach the first desk in the line, where a small bronze oil lamp rests on a low clay pedestal. The flame is burning low, its wick drawing up the last remaining drops of refined sesame oil, casting a gentle, warm orb of light that dances softly across the empty wooden shelves above. You lift a small bronze extinguisher, its metal cool and solid in your hand, and lower it slowly over the flickering fire. There is a tiny, soft hiss as the flame is snuffed out, followed by a thin, elegant ribbon of pale white smoke that rises straight into the dark air. The rich, slightly nutty aroma of the cooling oil drifts past your face. A sensory signal that another section of the great building has been put to rest. You watch the smoke curl and dissipate into the shadows of the high, vaulted ceiling, finding total peace in the quiet predictability of the action. With every lamp you extinguish, the silver radiance of the moon becomes more pronounced within the sanctuary. Looking up toward the high arched windows that line the western wall, you see the cool, brilliant light of the midnight moon pouring into the hall, painting pale rectangles across the dark marble floor. This celestial light is clean and serene, illuminating the grand columns of the Bruchion district with a soft, timeless glow that feels entirely separate from the chaotic fares of men. The shadows shift with a slow, graceful majesty as you move down the aisle, your body feeling increasingly relaxed and heavy with each passing moment. The frantic energy of the rescue operation has entirely dissolved, leaving only this beautiful, unhurried ritual of closing the day. You move toward the next lamp, your breath deep and steady, fully embracing the quiet, dark tranquility that is slowly reclaiming the grand library. Moving down the secondary aisle of the grand scriptorium, your hand guides the bronze extinguisher over the next copper lamp in the long sequence. The small flame vanishes instantly under the metal cone, leaving behind a brief, warm wisp of pale white smoke that carries the rich, earthy scent of toasted linen and cooling seed oil. With each light that disappears, the vast hall seems to expand outward into the quiet dark and seamlessly into the soft protective shadows of the midnight hour. Some so blinding becundle candy, where the large empty bookshelves that line the western walls look like ancient trees in a silent forest, their dark cedar surfaces catching the pale silver beams of the moon. This brilliant moonlight, filtering cleanly through the high arched windows, reflects off the polished marble floor, creating a serene and luminous pathway that guides your heavy footsteps forward without the need for any artificial fire. You pause for a moment near a massive granite pillar, resting your shoulder lightly against its smooth, cold surface. Rest your tired limbs. The stone is incredibly solid and stable, absorbing the faint warmth of your body and replacing it with a awareness in the present. From this vantage point, you look out through the open colonnade across the central courtyard of the library complex. The open-air space is completely quiet, the grand white marble fountains now still and silent, their waters resting like sheets of dark glass under the starlit sky. A gentle, cool breeze flows inward from the distant Mediterranean Sea, passing smoothly through the rows of columns and brushing softly against your skin. This air is crisp and clean, carrying a faint hint of distant sea salt and night-blooming jasmine that washes away the heavy, resinous scents of the underground vaults, completely refreshing your senses and bringing a deep feeling of physical relief to your chest. Your physical body now feels wonderfully heavy, every muscle completely relaxed after the hours of continuous, careful labour in the depths of the earth. The initial urgency of the evening has been entire hurried stillness that matches the natural seared, turning rhythm of the ancient world. Your eyelids grow increasingly heavy as you watch the slow, majestic movement across the deep indigo sky, visible through the high openings of the sanctuary wall. There is an immense therapeutic comfort in knowing that the finest achievements of human thought are now sleeping safely in the bedrock below, entirely hidden from the world and fully protected from the passing storms of human history. You lift your sandals from the marble floor with a slow mechanical ease, continuing your peaceful walk toward the heavy oak doors of the inner sanctuary, completely surrendered to the soothing, coated, dark tranquility of the night, ready to let your mind drift away into a deep and restorative sleep. You reach the end of the grand hall, where the massive double doors of the inner sanctuary stand open, marking the boundary between the sacred core of the library and the outer residential quarters of the scholars. These doors are masterfully constructed from ancient cedar of Lebanon, and a timber renowned for its turning of centuries without warping. Besoptes, you place your palms flat against the dark textured surface of the wood, feeling the intricate grain and the smooth, cold iron bands that reinforce the structure from top to bottom. The wood feels solid and comforting under your touch, an unyielding shield that has stood guard over the wisdom of the empire for generations. With a slow, deliberate lean of your body, you begin to push the heavy panels closed, your movements precise, matching the deep silence that now blankets the entire complex. The massive doors swing smoothly on their heavy bronze hinges, producing a low through the vacant scriptorium, before fading into the shadows of the high. The Ptolemaic vaulted ceilings. This deep, resonant sound carries a profound sense of closure, signalling the absolute end of the long night's labours. As the two panels meet in the centre, you lift a large, hand-forged iron latch and slide it into its designated socket with a slow, steady motion. The metal slides home with a heavy, satisfying click that sounds like a definitive promise of safety in the absolute quiet of the hall. You turn a massive iron key within the lock, hearing the internal mechanisms engage with a deep, solid thud that permanently isolates the inner sanctuary from the outer world, ensuring that the peaceful stillness within will remain entirely undisturbed until the morning light. You step away from the locked portal and move into the small attached chamber that serves as the head archivist, its private study and resting quarters. The room is beautifully simple, containing only a low wooden bed layered with soft linen sheets, a small cedar writing desk, and a high window that frames the silver orb of the midnight moon. The air here is remarkably soft and cool, carrying the gentle scent of night-blooming jasmine from the courtyard and the faint, grounding aroma of drying ink from the desk. A profound wave of physical exhaustion washes over you, making your limbs feel wonderfully heavy and your eyelids drop with a natural irresistible weight. As you approach the low bed, your movements fluid and completely relaxed, stripped of any remaining urgency or tension. You slide off your leather sandals, feeling the cool marble floor beneath your feet for one last groundingment before lying down upon the crisp, clean linen. As you rest your head against the soft cushion, the entire world seems to settle into a state of perfect, unshakable tranquility, inviting your mind to dissolve into a deep and restorative sleep. Lying flat upon the crisp linen mattress, you feel the immediate and profound release of physical tension from every muscle in your body. The long hours of lifting heavy oak chests, passing delicate leather cylinders, and navigating the cool limestone stairs have left your limbs with a deep, satisfying ache that now dissolves completely into the supportive surface beneath you. The raw flax fibers of the sheets are cool against your skin, providing a soothing texture that grounds your awareness in the immense safety of the room. Your shoulders sink heavily into the cushion, your arms rest motionless by your sides, and the tight grip you held all night relaxes completely. Every breath you take becomes slower and more rhythmic, a natural deceleration that mirrors the quiet closing of the great archive itself. There is no more physical effort required of you, no more burdens to carry, and no more paths to walk. You are entirely still, anchored in the heavy, beautiful comfort of the midnight hour. From your resting position, your eyes wander slowly to the high-arched window that dominates the western wall of the small chamber. The brilliant silver radiance of the midnight moon streams directly through the opening, casting a long, cool beam of light across the marble floor and illuminating the simple wooden features of the room. This celestial light is entirely soft and steady, holding none of the chaotic, flickering energy of the oil lamps you spent the evening extinguishing. It creates a tranquil pattern of light and shadow on the plastered ceiling above, a slow and majestic display that shifts so gradually it feels completely motionless to the naked eye. The air entering through the window is remarkably fresh and clean, and carrying the gentle, nocturnal perfume and damp earth from the central courtyard. This cool breeze sweeps softly over your face, clearing away the final remnants of dry papyrus dust and warm cedar resin, pristine your senses, leaving you in a state of absolute pristine clarity. The silence within the archivist quarters is absolute, a dense and velvety quiet that feels deeply protective and eternal. Down beneath the heavy foundations of the room, through thousands of tons of solid limestone and granite bedrock, the great collection of sealed sanctuary sleeps in its pristine sealed sanctuary, entirely untouched by the passing of time or the conflicts of the surface world, knowing that the master copies of philosophy, mathematics, and poetry are securely cradled in the dark womb of the earth, brings an unshakable peace to your mind. The worries of the empire, the political struggles in the harbour, and the temporary fires of the material world fade into complete insignificance against the vast, enduring permanence of the preserved truth. Your heartbeat slows to a steady, heavy cadence, perfectly synchronized with the profound stillness of the building. You find yourself floating in a sea of calm, where the boundaries between your own consciousness and the quiet sanctuary begin to soften and blur. The silver moonlight continues its slow, silent transit across the plastered ceiling of your chamber, tracing a path of pure, the waking world that guides your awareness away from the waking. Your eyelids are now incredibly heavy, drooping with a natural, irresistible weight that closes out the final details of the physical room. The shapes of the cedar desk, the bronze lamp, and the high-arched window slowly dissolve into a soft uniform darkness behind your closed eyes. This internal darkness is not empty. It is a rich, comforting space filled with the profound sense of safety that you have earned through the long, dedicated hours of this night. Every muscle in your face relaxes completely, the tension smoothing out from your forehead, your jaw, and the corner expression, leaving your expression in a state of perfect, serene neutrality. Your breath has settled into a deep, rhythmic loop that matches the slow, ancient pulse of the earth itself. With every slow inhalation, you pull in the cool, crisp night air, carrying the faint, clean scent of the distant sea and the sweet, fading note of the courtyard jasmine. With every slow exhalation, your body sinks even deeper into the soft land mat, releasing the very lots of physical weight to the supportive frame of the bed. You feel as though you are melting into the structure of the building, becoming one with the massive limestone foundations and the sogged granite bedrock that stretches out below your room. There is an immense therapeutic comfort in this sensation of total surrender, a feeling of being completely held and protected by the modern fortress of wisdom you helped secure. In this pre-sleep stillness, your mind drifts down through the layers of stone, revisiting the silent sanctuary core where the great library now rests. You picture the rows of heavy oak crates, their wood rich with cedar oil, sitting in perfect alignment against the raw bedrock walls. You visualize the pristine beeswax seals, hard and secure, and poetry, philosophy, beard, and geometry against the passage of centuries. The image is profoundly calming, a visual guarantee that the thread of human civilization is entirely unbroken and perfectly safe from the storms of the surface world, the conflicts of empires, the noise of the harbour, and the temporary fires of history are completely gone, leaving only the eternal, quiet truth of preservation. Everything is finished, every task is fulfilled, and the archive is secure in its eternal womb. The boundary between your thoughts and the deep silence of the room begins to blur into a soft, dreamlike state. The gentle, dry whisper of the wind through the high window sounds like the turning of a final page, a soft and comforting sign that the day is fully closed. Your consciousness floats on a landscape of total peace, completely free from any memories of effort or urgency. You feel a warm, heavy wave of sleepiness washing over your mind, pulling you down into a state of total, unshakable tranquility. There is nothing left to observe, nothing left to watch over, and nothing left to do. You are safe, you are warm, and you are entirely ready to let go to the deep, beautiful dark of the night as you drift into a profound and restorative sleep. Surrender. The final page of this long and sacred night has turned, leaving you completely enveloped in the deep, velvety dark of the private chamber. The silver moonlight that once traced slow patterns across the plastered ceiling, leaving the room in a state of absolute, uniform shadows that feel incredibly protective and soft. Your physical form is now entirely relaxed, completely integrated into the profound stillness of the ancient library complex. Every breath you take is a slow, effortless wave, drawing in the cool, silent air of the midnight hour and releasing any final, microscopic fragments of the waking mind into the dark. There is no longer a past to remember, no more scrolls to count, and no future tasks to prepare for. There is only the infinite, soothing expanse of the present moment, a pristine space where your spirit is entirely free to rest without a single demand on your energy. Deep beneath the marble floor, embedded far within the very root of the peninsula, the library's true intellectual core rests in its eternal, unyielding cocoon. The heavy oak crates, the tightly bound linen shrouds, and the solid bronze-clad inventory codex remain completely undisturbed, cradling the timeless thoughts of the ancient masters in a silent embrace that will outlast the rise and fall of countless surface empires. The wisdom of humanity is safe, preserved perfectly within the unyielding bones of the limestone bedrock and temporary fires of the surface world. Escafis, Zawolvgup. This absolute certainty settles into your chest like a warm, comforting weight, removing the need for any further vigilance or awareness. Your sacred duty is perfectly fulfilled, the treasures are securely hidden, and the sanctuary of the earth has claimed its quiet victory. The continuous, gentle murmur of the distant Mediterranean breeze through the high-arched window fades into a quiet, rhythmic whisper, a soft lullaby that slowly guides your consciousness down into the deeper realms of dreamless sleep. You feel a heavy, beautiful warmth spreading from your shoulders down through your arms, your hands, and to the very tips of your fingers, which now rest completely motionless against the raw flax sheets. Your mind is beautifully clear, like a pristine blank papyrus sheet that has been laid to rest in a dark drawer, untouched by any lingering thoughts, worries, or images. The dense, protective silence of the subterranean vaults, dissolving the final boundaries of your waking awareness into the vast, tranquil ocean of the night. The tranquil ocean knots of the night. You sink deeper and deeper into the welcoming shadows, as completely surrendered to the natural, turning rhythm of the universe. The darkness is complete, the stillness is absolute, and the sanctuary of your sleep is entirely secure from the world above. You let go of the very final thread of the day, allowing your spirit to drift away into the endless, soothing calm of a profound and restorative rest. Sleep has arrived, the night is eternal, and you are perfectly beautifully safe. This is a work of creative historical narrative constructed solely for entertainment, relaxation, and educational purposes. While rooted in verified archives, certain scenes and atmospheres have been textually reimagined to provide an immersive auditory experience. This content was developed with the assistance of advanced AI tools and has been meticulously reviewed, verified, and edited by the editorial team at Whispers of Centuries. All rights reserved. Until next time, listen closely to the whispers of the past, because you never know what timeless wisdom might quietly find its way into your night.